you can't think like a great investor, chances are more likely than not, you're not going to be a good investment banker. So I want to talk about the investor mindset today because we speak to a lot of students who want to break into investment banking, but ironically what we're realizing is a lot of the candidates that want to break into investment banking actually don't have a good mindset when it comes to the way they view investments and the way they think about investment opportunities. And if you can't think like a great investor, chances are more likely than not, you're not going to be a good investment banker. Okay, so one of my favorite quotes from one of the greatest investors of all time is Warren Buffett. And he said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And this is literally how all the greatest investors in the world think about investments. Okay, so I'll show you what I mean by that. Now, let's say if I ask you a question, is paying $50,000 for a car expensive? Well, it depends, right? What do you think? It depends. Because if you're buying a Honda Fit, that car is probably worth no more than $15,000 to $17,000. So in that case, yeah, $50,000 to get this car, that's really, really expensive, right? However, what if instead you're getting a Lamborghini, right? Like if I offered you a Lamborghini, I say you could have this car if you can come up with $50,000 in the next 24 hours. Even if you didn't have $50,000, you would probably go and figure out a way to find the $50,000. You'd probably borrow it from your friends or family or whoever just so you can buy this car because this car is probably worth $200,000 and that would be a great deal. That's a great investment, right? And so let's look at how like investors actually think about investments. So all investments, all you're doing is you're evaluating the potential risk versus the potential reward, because all investments have risk, right? High risk, high reward, low risk, low reward. Ideally, you want investments where the potential rewards far outweigh the potential risks. So the way you calculate your potential risk is the amount of capital you have to invest times the probability of you being wrong about this investment, right? And that gives you the expected value of how much money you might lose. Now, the potential reward is the return on investment times the probability of you being right about the investment, and that gives you the expected value of what you will gain if you're right about the investment, right? So let's use getting into investment banking as an example, okay? What is getting into investment banking worth to you in terms of return on investment? Well, first of all, let's make some very reasonable assumptions. Everybody's going to have a different opinion about this. There's no right or wrong, but here's a back of the envelope calculation on how you can think about this. So the average college grad today makes $50,000 a year. The average first-year investment banking analyst makes $130,000 a year. That means that the difference in annual compensation is about $80,000 a year, okay? Even if we conservatively assume that that gap doesn't widen over time, which we know it actually does, because if you start out with a higher pay, your pay is going to grow faster. But let's just assume that stays at $80,000 a year for the rest of your career, okay? On average, each person is going to work for about 40 years until retirement age, right? From the time they graduate college until they're, 60 plus. And so if you're making an extra $80,000 a year for the rest of your career for 40 years, the simplifying assumption, that's $3.2 million, right? In terms of the lifetime value. That actually lines up with the Stanford GSB study that looked at this, where they said if you go into investment banking as your first career after you graduate, on average, you're going to make anywhere from $1.5 to $5.5 million more in present value, okay, over the lifetime of your career. So if you discount the $3.2 million back to today's value, on the low end, it might be around $1.5 million, right? So let's go back to the diagram we were looking at previously. So if your potential return is about $1.5 million on the right side, let's say there's an opportunity like Wall Street Mastermind where, hey, if you invest in this program, you're going to have over 90% chance of getting into investment banking because that's our current success rate. That means your expected value on that side is about $1.35 million, right? So the question is, what if you're wrong about Wall Street Mastermind? What if you don't get into investment banking even if you invest in something like Wall Street Mastermind? Well, if you happen to be the 10% who just don't get in, it's actually less than that, but let's just use 10%, you have to ask yourself, how much am I willing to risk? How much am I willing to invest in something like Wall Street Mastermind, which is going to massively increase my chances of getting into investment banking and having this expected value of $1.35 million? How much am I willing to risk on the other side? Well, if you just do the break-even math, theoretically it should be about $13.5 billion because there's only a 10% chance of you being wrong. Of course, that's ridiculous, right? And of course, we don't charge anything close to $1.35 million. In fact, we charge like 0.0 0.005% or whatever. I don't even know what the percentage is. It's some ridiculously low fraction amount, depending on how much help you need and what you actually need help with, right? And so whatever the investment is in Wall Street Mastermind for you, it's one of the best investments you can really make if you have the right mindset. Hey there, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're looking for more customized advice that's tailored for your specific situation, then I invite you to book a free strategy session with our team at the link below. We'll talk to you soon.